welcome to another episode of Team Talk.
Yeah, tonight we have two dynamic couples that are going to be coming on, joining us this evening. But before we get jumping into that, because this is a historical month, we want to share a little history with you. Since 1967, we've come a long way here in the United States, especially since the Loving versus Virginia case, where the U.S. Supreme Court has declared laws banning interracial marriages were unconstitutional. This was a significant step toward change.
And the awesome part about it is we are starting to see change now in our society. But before we get into all of that, those who are watching the rebroadcast and also those who are joining us right now, thank you so much for joining us, and make sure you let us know where you're joining in from. If you have not followed us yet, please go over to our YouTube channel, Facebook, and Instagram, and you will be able to find us there. So today we have two phenomenal couples that are going to join us tonight, and both of them have been married less than 5 years, but they are interracial couple, and they're going to share their personal experiences with you on tonight and what you can do for your relationship. So the first couple that we're going to introduce,
Get ready for them. Y'all get ready. Y'all get ready.
On, y'all ready?
Yes.
I can't even go into full detail as to how we
Well,
met
we're going to
them.
let them tell the story.
Yeah, let them tell the story. But right now, we're going to introduce Team Bailey.
Come on through the tunnel, Team Bailey.
The house.
Hello. What's going on?
All right. And the next couple that we have, the next one is the Richardsons. We have known them since yay tall.
So how tall?
Yay.
Well, at least one half we've known that.
Yeah,
long.
one half.
The other half we've known for several years now. But yeah, the other one, yay tall.
All right. Now that we've known them since yay tall, we are going to introduce them, the Richardsons. Team Richardsons, please join us in the house. What's up?
What's going on?
Not much. Hey, listen, y'all, we are in for a treat tonight because we know that your guys' testimony is going to help so many couples. So let's just dig right on in. Bailey's, just share a little bit about yourself to our community.
Yeah, so this is my wife, Debbie. We've been married for about 8 months now. Met during quarantine. So, you know, it's
met right before.
A month before. So we had nothing but time to get to know each other.
Time and conversation, deep conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My dad always told me, look deep before you leave. So that we talked a lot, and then within a year and a half, we got married. So we're doing it.
We're doing it.
Oh, COVID did y'all real well.
Wonderful.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It made our conversations and our time way more intentional, which is amazing.
Awesome.
So needless to say, y'all were able to establish a good communication foundation.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's still in the works, obviously.
It's always.
Always.
It's really good sometimes, and then sometimes it's like, we need to refresh and go back to what was working, because this is not working right now.
Oh, yeah, trust me. We are going to dig into all of that in just a few minutes. So our next couple, the Richardsons, tell us a little bit about yourself to our community.
I'm Darius. This is my wife, Rebecca. I'm the half that they've known since yay high. Since I was about 7 or 8 to be exact, I think. We have been married. It'll be 4 years this July that we've been married. We have 3 beautiful children that, we had nothing else to do during quarantine. So
Quarantine babies, huh?
Quarantine babies.
So one couple did communication, the other one did biblical knowledge.
There it is. 2 boys and our baby girl who's 5 months. Our boys are 2 and 1. And yeah.
Wow. Amazing. So we are going to get right into our conversation on tonight. So let me just tell y'all, in this platform, don't be stuffy, be real, but yet be personable to the community, okay? So we're going to ask the very first question. And that very first question is, what was the initial response of those close to you when you brought home another woman from another race? Bailey, you can go ahead and start that.
Yeah. So for me, that was a mixed bag, depending on who I was talking to. Some of my family members that were raised in a different time wasn't always open to the idea. But it was on me to have those conversations with them and to actually let them know what I wanted in a wife. But outside of family, I would say, friends, you get in those conversations where you're defending yourself because they're asking, why are you not choosing someone of your race? And so I think that I've been through trying to explain and articulate and forced to find words of what you are supposed to look for in a wife. And although race is something that is important, that wasn't something that I was just intentionally going out and saying, I want a white girl. That wasn't it at all. God sent me someone who I had to heavily consider, and it happened to be her. So
good.
Yeah. I'll say for me, I let my mom tell it. She knew Becky was the one when she met Becky. But my parents didn't, like, they had no reservations. They didn't care that she was white. And I think part of that is because I grew up in Hawaii, where you're around everybody, white, black, Hispanic, Filipino, Japanese, whatever. You're around everybody. So, and they've always said that they knew they'd be more surprised if we did marry somebody who was black versus somebody who wasn't, just because of where we grew up at and the types of different types of people we were always around. So, as I said, they didn't care. They were like, as long as she saved and loved Jesus, we don't care if she purple.
I can just hear that right now. She better be saved. You better be saved.
Yeah.
So ladies, if y'all had, just give us a little bit of snippet of your experience with your family and friends.
Yeah, because you brought a big old chocolate brown man home.
Chocolate brown.
A big handsome man is what I brought into my home. Very similar. My mom and dad always raised me. They said, we don't care who you marry as long as they love the Lord, because if they love the Lord, then they will love you the way that you want to be loved. So I grew up with that, and it was very much like, it was different when I first told my mom. She was like, okay, that's different, because a lot of my other sisters married Romanian men. So when my oldest sister married an American, it was definitely like, wait, what's happening? We're mixing up the family now? Like, what is going on? So I think she definitely eased into it a little bit more. But the second my mom met Najee, she fell in love. And I feel like she looks forward to seeing him now more than me.
That's always the case. Look, we black on black, and it's still like
Yes. But and we'll get to this a little bit later, because you just brought up a good point there, Deborah, in reference to not only the ethnicity portion, but also the geographical. Because by your family not just being from America, but also from Europe originally as well. So you had that other dynamic in there. So we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a little bit.
Well, that you're absolutely correct too, because it's not just black and white; it's every ethnicity that we're referring to. So we're going to get into this.
Well, you don't want to hear what Becky has to say?
Oh, I'm sorry, Becky.
Yes.
Go, Becky.
No, it's
We got a penalty flag on the play. 5-yard penalty. Back it up.
I know it's all good. I'll be quick. No, it was actually kind of funny when, even before we started dating, when I first started, like, I knew him for about at least a year, but I started seeing him differently. I started kind of like paying more attention to him from afar, and I remember I was actually living at home with my parents at the time. Mm-hmm. I remember coming out to the living room and saying, "Hey, Mom, Dad, I just want to let you know I think I like a black guy," because I had never dated a black guy before, and like they were cool with all of our friends, my siblings and I growing up. Like, it didn't matter what ethnicity or race or anything, but I had never dated a black guy, and I just, for some reason, I felt like I needed to like just pre-warn them, because it was a new thing. It was a new thing that they'd never seen me romantically interested in a black guy before. So they, of course, welcomed them with open arms. They didn't quite let me know what they thought quite at first, except I just knew that they welcomed them. They came over to the house for dinner a lot and stuff like that. So it was it was pretty good at the beginning. But I could tell that they were just trying to feel him out, you know, trying to get to know him.
You better know it. Look,
especially the old Southern boys. You gotta get to know him a little bit. I know he grew up in Hawaii. He got Southern roots.
Right? Because my mother told me, black on black, black on Creole here. My mother told me, you better watch them Creole folk. The New Orleans folks say they special.
And now she loves me like I was one of her own.
Yes. Yes, she does.
So going into our next topic, good hot topic here. We want to find out, and ladies, we want to start off with you on this question. What is the most significant conflict that you had to address with your husbands?
You want to go? I'll go first.
I can go first. You want to go?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So the most significant conflict thus far has been our communication differences, our communication style differences. Yeah. That was a main thing, that when we were dating, we communicated great. And then all of a sudden we got married and we started encountering these moments where we were triggering each other. Yeah. And there was one specific moment that I can look back and tell the story and look back now and be honest, because, you know, I'm proud of my growth, but it's an embarrassing moment for me where I was making Darius lunch, and he came up to the counter and said, so I don't remember exactly what he said, but something simple like, "This mine?" Like asking which plate was his. But the way he said it, I was like, excuse me? Right? No, and I remember telling him, like, I'm not gonna let our kids talk to me like that. And he's like what? And I was like, I felt like that was disrespectful. What?
So you saying he was a little rough around the edges with how he communicated?
Yeah, it was just a different style. But what was the embarrassing part, and that what unfolded in that moment was that I realized that I had an unknown idea and picture and perception that was connected to what I've seen in pop culture and movies and TV and media, and of just, if you talk like that, it's rude and disrespectful, and it was associated with young Black men talking like that. Now, I had no idea. Right. And once I felt like in that moment, the Holy Spirit revealed that to me, and I had to repent. I had to apologize. I was like bawling in the moment. I said, I'm so sorry. I had no idea that this was there. And so that was something that was pretty big early on, that we had to like decode and rewrite like what my perception of different communication styles were and how to interpret that, so both of us don't get offended by the other. I
like what you just said. That's had to key. Decode. You had to learn each other's languages, not just because of being, one from Florida or really Hawaii, and then one from, because you're really from Florida, but also, the ethnicity barrier in communicating and other different areas in there. So I like that. We had to decode, regardless of our experiences. A lot of times we got to still learn how to decode, even just as a man and women, because we have different way of communicating and then our own personalities. So, all right, let's go with the Billies. How about you, Miss Deborah?
Well, I would say we've had conflict in certain things, but I think early on, it was kind of hard for Najee to understand, especially because I was living at home at the time. I lived in a very strict household, especially a foreign household. They're insanely strict. So when I would tell him, like, I would kind of have to let my mom know or ask her, like, hey, is it okay if I go out tonight? And he's like, what do you mean? You're like 26, 25 years old. You have to ask your mom. And I was like, it's not so much like asking. It's more so just like letting her know, and then also letting her know, like, I need to be home by a certain time and things like that. And I think that was a little bit strange to him, because he's like, you're how old and you still need to like run things past your mom? And I was like, it's a respect thing. If I don't do it, then I'm not gonna hear the end of it. So there was a lot of that, and then a lot of, in my family and in our culture, family is very, very close, to the point where it's like, I'll ask all of my sisters for every type of advice, and he would sometimes tell me, like, you don't need to ask everybody their experience. Sometimes we need to live our own experience as our experience. Yes. And I was like, you know what? let's try it. Let's
Yes.
try it on our own and let's figure it out before I ask a million people how they do it, especially my siblings, because they kind of do everything the same and that works for them.
Mhm.
But we are two totally different people. We are Romanian and Black. They've never been with a Black guy and they don't know what it takes, and just being in an interracial relationship in general, what the like stipulations around going out in public even looks like. So a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication, and a lot of just prayer daily.
Yes. A whole lot. So you both said quite a few things, but I'm going to kind of narrow it down a little bit. Stereotyping is what I've heard you say. And then also, too, you've had differences in how you communicate.
Decoding.
So you had to learn how to decode.
Mhm.
And with that, I'm sure as an interracial couple, you've dealt with individuals, whether it's family, friends, co-workers, or just even strangers, felt like how you've been gaslighted or either slighted.
Mhm.
Can either one of you speak to that for just a second?
Yeah.
Because that's a real issue that couples experience. And then we'll go into the next question right after that.
Yeah.
You want to go first, Darius?
Go ahead, man.
So for me, I find myself in a lot of different circumstances. I can tackle this from a lot of different standpoints, but I will I'll take it from a job per se.
Okay.
You know, being working in many different fields, and one of the things is sometimes you don't get the position that you want, not because you're not qualified, but in certain instances, you're judged. So I've always had to hold myself to a higher standard as far as being clean cut, knowing how to speak, to be, very articulate, to be able to get certain positions. And so that's one of the things that I kind of talk to my wife about, like, hey, I experienced this. This is why I am the way that I am today, because you got to have it all together as a Black man in America. You really, really do, to get yourself in certain doors and just to beat those stereotypes. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's real. I say we were having a conversation with some of her family in regards to, I think, the Breonna Taylor situation.
Mhm.
And I had made mention of how, and I think Zai was born, or you were pregnant with Zai at the time, one or the other. And we were just talking. I had shared how, obviously we're going to teach our kids to be respectful, respect your elders, respect authority, all of that stuff. But I have to take it a step further because of what they look like. And the family we were speaking to, they were like, well, I was taught the same thing. I was taught to be respectful and all this and that. And I'm like, you are, and I believe that. Like, obviously, I've interacted with you. I believe that you've been taught that way. Here's the difference between you and my son. If you were to get pulled over by an officer, you're not thinking about, am I going to make it home? That's not even a thought that crosses your mind. I have to make sure that if he gets pulled over, that he does everything by the book and more, so he does make it home.
Yes.
And that is so good. And this kind of caveats into the next question.
Yes.
And that question would be,
how do you manage those, whether it be in-laws, whether it be regular family members, or even, you gonna change up on me?
Yes.
See, then threw audible
I'm
over
so
y'all.
so sorry, y'all. Y'all just bear with us.
We're gonna still flow with that one right there, but I got you. All right.
Yes.
So audible number 1 for the night. What degree of difficulty, if any, have you encountered sharing those vulnerabilities with your spouse?
And it speaks to what it is that you guys both were just talking about. Excuse me, not you guys, you gentlemen were just talking about. How is it sharing those vulnerabilities with your spouse? And do you think that they understand?
Yeah.
It's better now, but early on it was a challenge. And then, y'all know, I grew up in Hawaii where it's everybody. So though I knew racism and prejudice exist, I didn't experience it until I left home and joined the military. And it was kind of like, oh, so this is the thing that I've learned about, I've heard about. Cool, got it. moved here, have some situations here. And so when everything started happening in 2020 with the whole social justice movement, you know, my wife, she's one that she wants to understand so she knows how to help.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
And me, I'm like, I don't need you to ask me 21 questions right now trying to understand. I just need you to listen to me in this moment, express how I'm feeling. And if you don't understand, that's fine. I don't expect you to. But allow me to just, if I feel like screaming, let me scream.
Mm.
If I feel like crying, let me cry. Because a lot of the things that happened, obviously before 2020, but 2020 because it was the pandemic, then the George Floyd situation, Breonna Taylor, it was just like one thing after another, after another, after another. And so even going back to January that year when Kobe Bryant had passed, like I had a moment, I think I had came to bed and just laying in bed, and I literally grabbed her hand. This was like December of 2020. And she was like, "What's wrong?" And I broke, and I said, "I haven't been okay all year long."
Wow.
It's like I've been trying to hold it together. And in this moment, I'm telling you, I have not been okay.
Mm-hmm.
I have not been okay since January this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that moment was the turning point in me being able to be more vulnerable and share things that bothered me. And from that moment on, I think we've been doing better.
Yeah, definitely. And I've had to learn. There's times where, this isn't the conversation, like me sharing my thoughts and opinions too. He's had to like remind me, like, yo, no, just hear what I have to say. And I've had to say, oh yeah, this, especially, you know, when it comes to topics about racial injustice in different situations, whether it's in sports or whether, you know, in the news, whatever it is, I've had to just say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that me talking and sharing my thoughts, it wasn't appropriate for the moment.
That is so good and valuable, because I think that will help out many couples who are in an interracial relationship understand that there are times where you have to shift.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that they don't love you and they're disrespecting you or trying to, what is the word I want to use? Distance themselves from you, but the circumstances that they're facing at the time is what they need the space for.
Mm-hmm.
In regards to expressing themselves, which is so very key and very important. So if you are watching this live broadcast right now and you too have questions, there's something that you would like to know that one of these couples can help you get a better understanding on, please put those questions in the chat. And if this conversation thus far has been helpful, please put a heart, a fire drop, do that to let us know that you are there. And also, Bailey's, you go ahead and answer the question as well.
Yeah, I think, so you try to figure out how can you have understanding in an area where there isn't a whole lot of relatability.
Correct.
Yeah, so for her and I, it does take a lot of communication and listening. And we've been in certain circumstances where, you know, that underlying racial tension is so thick to where I have to push it to the side and we have to have conversations because it could act as a wedge and get between us because and there's an underlining factor that kind of forces you to pick a side.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to remember that.
Whoa.
Yes. You gotta pause right there, man. You gotta pause right there.
You say it. Go ahead.
It kind of puts you in a position where you feel like you have to take or pick a side.
Yeah.
That is an awkward position to be in because both of you are united as one, and to have to be in that position to feel like you have to take a side.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That is that tension and strain that interracial couples experience more than
Same
black on
ethnicity.
black
Yeah.
or same ethnicity
Mhm.
couples do. That's phenomenal. I'm sorry. Go
Yeah.
ahead. We had
Please
to
continue.
stop you on that one because that was good enough.
Yeah, we wanted the people way in the back row to get that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you kind of got to watch who's in your ear, because if you don't, then I'm
Mm.
home and I'm looking at her like, man, you don't understand me. You
Mhm.
can't relate to me.
Wow.
So there is a level of maturity that you have to have when you are in an interracial relationship. And just to realize that my wife is not the enemy. We're on the same team.
Yes.
You know, at the end of the day, regardless of our race, she's here to listen to me, even during the tough times where, you know, everything is in the media and everything is on the news. And she's like, hey, babe, whatever it is that you need, I'm just here to listen. You give me the game plan and we'll go from
You
there.
tell me what you need me to do, whatever it is that I can do. If it's nothing at all, or if it's saying something, doing something, let me know. And
You
I'll
mean to tell me you got you a ride or die?
Right or
Oh,
absolutely. Now listen, and that's key.
Yes, it is.
That is key because first of all, you guys are young
Mhm.
couple, and young couples nowadays, whether it is black on black or whether it is interracial, they have to understand that team concept.
Yes.
Have to understand the very valuable things that you just said. And if they don't, they're going to struggle
Mhm.
in their marriage because they're not on the same team.
Yes.
They can so easily think, oh, you don't understand because you black or you
Right.
white. You don't understand because you're Filipino and I'm white or whatever
I'll
the case
take it a
may
step
be.
further because it's also a common thread in marriages, period, being a man and being a woman.
Mhm.
Now
Yes.
being able to relate or understand what each other is going through. Because
Yes.
the shoe could be on either foot. Whereas we're dealing with something, and like you said, Darius, babe, I don't need you to try to resolve this or figure this out. I just need you to hear right now.
To listen.
Or a lot of times for us men, we're in the position of always going to have an answer or fix it all for our wives. And sometimes all they want us to do is just be a sounding board and listen. Don't give them a result. Just go ahead and hear it. Make sure we repeat it back to them. Let them know that we heard the heartbeat of what they're saying, and just say, "Okay, babe, I'm right here for you." Like Deborah said, "I'm here for you, whatever you need."
That's right. That's right.
Whatever you need, I'm here for you. We want me to pray. We want me to be silent. You want me just to hold your hand, whatever it is.
That's factual.
Yes.
But now we're getting ready to go a little bit deeper here with this question, okay?
Can we go back to my question?
That's exactly
All
where
right,
we're going.
good.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Coach.
So what I want to ask, how have you been able to manage? If you're dealing with this now or have dealt with, whether it be with in-laws, whether it be with co-workers, whoever that you've come in contact with, where they have silently not agreed with your decision, where you have been affected by micro or passive aggressiveness.
Don't be afraid.
You want me to go?
Yeah, you had a good answer.
So I'll say I never dealt with them not approving. Never dealt with that. Don't deal with that now.
Okay.
But I will say there were some concerns,
Mm-hmm.
and the concerns came out in a passive aggressive way. I found out about some of these like maybe last year. And again, this was early on, like concerns early on. For example, the one I shared with you today, I remember we went and had dinner with my in-laws, my mother and father-in-law, because he had expressed to her his concern. At the time, I was in between jobs while we were dating. And he was concerned with my ability to be able to provide, and noticing that she was doing a lot of paying for things. We would go out, and I didn't want that. I would tell her like, yo, if I don't got it, we're not going. Like that's that. But she was like, no, it's okay. I get it. Like I know it's not gonna always be like this. I know it's just for a season, but I really want to go out and do something. I got it. And I'd be like, all right. But in the back of my mind, like, bro, I just really don't like, as a man, you like, nah, this is not how it's supposed to be. And so I remember when she shared it with me, and again, this is how I received it. And again, this, to me, how I took it as, man, does he think I'm the typical black guy who's just mooching off his daughter? Like, that's lazy and not trying to, you know, become better. I'm just, you know, well, I got me somebody's gonna take care of me. I'm good. That's how I took it. And again, he didn't say that, but because I already felt like I'm the only one that's different in the room, I'm the only thing that's different in the room. Everything was viewed through those lenses. Everything that was said, every interaction was viewed through the lenses of, is it because I'm black?
Mm-hmm. And so it wasn't the case where he was concerned as a father.
Yeah, he was concerned
to take care of my baby.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you know, one of the things we had mentioned when we were talking about it earlier today was, you know, because Darius is black, is it like, was it a father concerned, you know, in the moment we were kind of questioning whether is it a father concerned about whether somebody can provide for his daughter, or was it a father concerned about the character of the man that his daughter is with? You know, and so we were able to have that conversation. You know, we went out to dinner, but you know, I know that Darius felt like he had to kind of get out in front of it, say, wait. No, I just want to make sure you know exactly who I am and prove who he was, go above and beyond, just to kind of keep any stereotype influence kind of at bay, I guess.
We went out to dinner. We had the conversation. I paid for dinner.
Right.
Look, because I was going to say, give for those out there that's listening, $1 million tip. If you find yourself in a situation like that, whether your spouse, your fiance, your husband is in between jobs, whatever situation, and you know he's a good man, provider, but he right there at that moment doesn't have it, but you got it, y'all talk about it before you go out to eat. Give him the card. It could be your card. Give him the card and let him give it. Let him get the check and pay for his business. Nobody need to know about it but y'all.
Not give him the card.
That's wisdom right there.
Oh man.
Yes. Okay, Bailey's. Najee. I keep saying Bailey. Sorry, Najee. Go ahead and answer the question. And before you do that, no, Mr. Evangelist Jose, we are not talking about Scooby Snacks tonight. Thank you very much. Go right ahead, Najee.
That was for somebody in the chat.
I seen that. So our situation was a little bit different. We dated for, what was it, 6 months to a year before we even met parents. So we gave them an opportunity to chew on the meat, digest it, so that they don't get that initial reaction where it's like, whoa, what is this?
You're just bringing anybody
just bringing
around.
something, you know, that they weren't aware of. So her and I had a lot of time to kind of have those conversations before we brought our spouse into the meeting with them. And I remember having a conversation with my dad, and you know, he has diarrhea of the mouth at times. So I pinned his arm against the wall, and I told him, I said, Dad, you can act up. I pinned his arm behind his back against the wall.
Behind his back.
I said, you could say something crazy if you want to, but I'm telling you now, it's going to be a problem. but I jokingly say that, but I let everybody know, hey, this is more than likely going to be my wife. So I need y'all to get on board with this. So we didn't
like that.
I what you used to say was like get on board, more so just like have respect, because this is the one that I'm choosing to be with. And that's exactly what I got the moment I met anyone in his family. And his dad even told me, he goes, do you know what Najee told me and what he did to me? And he told me exactly how much he pulled his arm behind his back. And his dad was still himself. And I love everything that he says. And he's just so funny.
Those underlying jokes, they wasn't going to fly.
Yeah.
You know, and that's good because you set a precedence.
Yes.
As a man and as a soon-to-be husband, whether it was your father or anybody else, you put the line of demarcation. Look, this is going to be my wife.
Yeah.
Regardless of background, whatnot, this is my rib that God has given me. Y'all got to respect her. Respect us and our decision.
Yeah.
That is phenomenal.
Yeah.
You guys are just so amazing, and I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Now, the last thing that we would like for you all to do, the Baileys, and I'm saying the last name again, the Baileys, share 2 takeaways for any couple that is going to watch the rebroadcast or is currently watching, what they can take away if they would like to marry an interracial woman or somebody of another ethnicity, what they can experience or give them some tips.
Let the wives answer this question.
Yes. Okay. There you go.
Okay.
I had one too.
Well, you can help out. You can help out. But let us
I did too.
I would say the biggest one for me is just, even though we live in the Bay Area and it's so diverse here, we still get a lot of looks, a lot of things said to us when we go out. And I've always said you could say anything about me, but the second you go about someone that I love, I just see red. So I learned that Najee and I, we would always have conversations when anyone would say something that was just completely out of line. He would say, we don't argue with fools. And it even says that in the Bible, not to do that.
Yes.
Oh,
Look.
My scripture right there, Proverbs.
girl, that's the word. Don't argue with fools. FOOLS.
Don't even waste your time.
Like, I'm on fire and I'm ready to go. I really am, like, beyond words. I'm ready to like do some real damage. But we also learned, and this was, I think, the biggest takeaway, is whatever people project on you because of the decision that you made to marry interracially, and the things that they say and act towards you has something to do with them and nothing to do with you. There is healing that they need in their own heart and in their own soul that they're just projecting onto you. So all we can do is pray for them and continuously show grace to them and just show them the things that you say, the way that you treat me will not have me treat you any differently. If anything, it will just make me, okay, I'm gonna just be that much nicer, or I'm just gonna keep going the way that I've been going and not let it affect me, because it's not going to tear me down. If anything, it'll just help me pray for you, or just realize there's healing that needs to be done there. It has nothing to do with us.
Girl, air I high five. Shoot. All right now, Becky, you come on and reel us on home.
Oh my goodness.
Before you go, Becky, did you have anything you want to add to that, Najee?
Yeah, I would just say explore your partner's culture. Examine the costs. Like, find out about that person. Is that realistically something that you want to go into? Because the reality of the matter is, you potentially are going to have kids with that person, and that kid is going to be a combination of the both of you. Mm-hmm. But the interesting part is, being in the interracial relationship, black and white, that child is going to be looked at, depending on, how he comes out, is going to be looked at as a black man or woman. Mm-hmm. So you got to consider cost. You got to have these conversations together so that you know how to raise them when they do come into those moments.
That's good.
What he said examine the cost.
Yeah.
Count up the cost, because there's a lot of different dynamics in there that you got to consider.
That's right.
Yes. All right, Becky, you up.
All right. The first thing I will say is that, I mean, you're gonna have with any relationship, there's an opportunity for growth. Mm-hmm. But when you're with somebody who is so different, and you have that different culture, that different ethnicity component, there comes this opportunity for growth and a greater awareness, and that. When you start discovering who that person is, you start studying and doing your research, like was just mentioned, you start appreciating and you start seeing things differently. You start appreciating what's different. You grow, your self-awareness grows.
Yeah.
You find that you have a greater empathy for people. You see the world differently, and it just, there's so much value in that, of not staying in your own four walls of just whatever you're familiar with, but breaking beyond that. Yes, it may make other people uncomfortable, but the growth is just incredible. And so just an encouragement there that there's so much value in, and because you'll go through the tough things. And that, my second point is to, like, if you've committed to this person and you are approaching marriage, and even if it's difficult, lean into the discomfort.
Yeah.
Growth in there. Like, it's gonna get hard, and you may want to run away back to what's familiar, but lean into the discomfort and allow it to shape you and to grow you, to be able to see things differently, to be able to appreciate things and to see the beauty in what's different. And so that's just my encouragement there, because it will get tough, but you lean into it and you'll see that you not only you grow, but you start seeing things differently. And
lean into the discomfort.
That was a phenomenal way to just end this whole session.
Let's give my brother just close us out with a good. Your wife brought it home. Go close it out.
She did. She did.
He gave the final selection.
I got to give him. Go ahead.
Two things real quick. One thing I shared with you guys before, and that's you have to remember, you're not just marrying her or him. You're marrying them.
Yes.
Family.
Yes.
So just remember that, because I think sometimes we get caught up in the individual and not remember that this individual also has a family that you one day are going to have to meet. And there's going to be weddings and birthdays, graduations and family reunions. And you have to know who you're marrying. And I mean, everybody.
Yes.
Know that. So like he was saying, like, not just explore the culture, but get to know the entire family.
Yes.
Part of counting the cost.
It's part. You're not you. Somebody said. So this is what I mean when I say you're marrying them. You're marrying into the family.
Yes.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. You're not marrying the family. You're marrying into the family.
Yeah.
Now, granted, there are situations where if you have to cut the family off, that's you pray about it. You do what you have to do. But at the end of the day, that person was a part of a family before you guys became a family.
That's right.
That's right.
And that person will always have that family. So you got to make sure that y'all are on the up and up. And then the other thing I would say is you have to know that that this is the person that God said is for you.
Yeah.
One thing I would say,
that you know.
yes, because family will have something to say. Strangers gonna have something to say. Friends will have something to say. The one thing I have always said to my wife is, the reason I know this is supposed to be is that our relationship, I truly believe that God is going to use our relationship to dismantle the problem that we have in this country. That problem being racist. We've had words spoken over our children that line up with what I've shared with her before we even had kids.
Wow.
And so you have to know without a shadow of a doubt that this is the person that you are supposed to be with, because it's going to be hard.
Yep.
Marriage is hard. My dad always says marrying the right one is already hard enough.
Yeah.
Marrying the wrong one.
Hold up now. You got a little too loud on that one. But he's right. It's challenging.
It's challenging. It's challenging enough. And so you have to know what the Lord said. You have to stand on that. Stand on his word. And y'all have to be a team.
Yes.
Yep.
That's it right there. So, folks, y'all heard it great tonight. Thank y'all, the Baileys and the Richardsons. Wonderful, wonderful session.
Yes.
I just want to summarize a lot of what they talked about tonight. First of all, decoding the conversation, understanding and counting up the cost. And one of the last things that was just said, you want to drop that one in?
No, I'll let you do it.
Know that you know that you know. It's another way of saying it. But deep down inside, if you know that this is the person that God has for you, and you know that you want to get in a relationship with that person for marriage, ensure that you take time out to get to know the family. Ensure that you talk about all the ups and downs. Ensure that this is the God's direction for you. Because if that's the God ordained person for you, no matter how family or friends view it or see it, this is the person that you're going to formulate that team together. Yes. And you'll be able to lean in through those challenging times.
You said that so very nicely. Thank y'all so much for joining us on tonight. Once again, we thank you. We enjoyed every single one of you that came and joined us. All of you who left comments, those who are going to watch the rebroadcast, thank you so very much. And again, if you have not followed us, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. This will be on YouTube in just a couple of days, so you'll be able to go back and watch the rebroadcast. And as we always say at the end of every session that we do, y'all join in with us. We're going to say 2 hearts, 1 team, 1 purpose. Y'all ready?
Yeah.
All right.
2 hearts,
1
1
team,
team,
1
1 purpose.
purpose.
All right. Y'all have a good night.
Nice.